Hi, and thank you for joining me for this video. So what we have here is the NightCat 2-person 3-season tent. Now, I genuinely think that this tent is a bit of a hidden gem because for a budget price of £59, you get some fantastic features with this tent. But with that said, let's take a closer look. So everything you get comes in this storage bag, and I have to say I'm really impressed with the storage bag. It not only looks good, but it feels really well made. Now you get a couple of carry handles at the top. You also get a couple of compression straps with buckles. You've got the company logo on the front. It also has a nice big center zip, so it's going to make getting everything out and then back in again quick and easy. Now, when it comes to the size of this storage bag, the length comes in at around 43 centimeters and the width comes in at around 16 centimeters. Now, when it comes to the packed weight, it comes in at around 2.5 kilograms. Now, because of the compact size of the storage bag with everything in, this is going to be ideal for backpacking, hiking, general camping, or motorcycle and car overlanding. Now, yes, at 2.5 kilograms, it's not the lightest, but it is more than doable. And if you are going to be sharing this tent with someone, well, you could share the weight. One of you could carry the tent and the other person could carry the tent poles and the tent pegs. Now, apart from your storage bag, everything will come rolled up and kept together with this really nice compression strap. You then will get a little user manual telling you what you should have inside your storage bag, but also some instructions on how to set this tent up correctly. You then get your tent. Now, your inner tent is already connected to your outer fly. You'll then get 2 poles. You get 1 main pole, and then you will get a spreader pole. These poles come in their own storage bag. You will then get 12 ground pegs, which come with their own storage bag. Now, you also get 4 guy lines, but they are already connected to your tent. Right, let's have a look at how to pitch this tent correctly. Now, when it comes to setting up this tent, you don't actually get a footprint with this tent, but I always advise using a footprint because it just gives you that extra layer of protection underneath your tent. Now, you can use a bit of cheap tarpaulin, or you can go online and just buy a cheap footprint, which will be compatible with this tent. Now, when you've got your footprint down, the next thing you want to do is just peg out each of the corners of this tent. The next thing to do is to connect your main tent pole together and then just connect the corners of your tent pole to the corners of your tent. Now, when it comes to connecting your tent poles to your tent, it's nice and easy. Just pop the corners of your tent poles into these little eyelets in the corner of your tent. The next thing you want to do is simply connect your tent to your tent poles. Now, when it comes to connecting your tent to your tent poles, it's nice and easy because you've got lots of these plastic clips that simply just clip onto your tent poles. Now, just a word of advice when you are setting up your tent, when you've connected your tent poles, you will notice right at the top of your tent poles, you've got this little connection which connects all the poles together. But underneath, you've got like this little ball. You want to make sure this is at the bottom, closest to the tent. Then when you come in to connect your tent to your tent poles, you will notice that in the middle here, you've got a connection with like a couple of loops. All you do is simply slide it over the ball like that, and that's in place. You then want to connect your spreader pole together. Now, before you connect your spreader pole to your tent, you want to make sure that the spreader pole is going over the top of the other tent poles and not underneath. By making sure your spreader pole is over the top of the other tent poles, when you've connected it, it will lift the inside of your tent up, so it's going to give you max headroom. It'll also keep things a lot more taut on the outside. Now, to connect it on each side, you do have a couple of clips similar to the other clips just to connect your tent to the tent poles. But then on each side, you also get these little eyelets, which are similar to the eyelets that I showed you, where you connect the corners of your tent to your tent poles. And you just simply pop those in like that. And there you have it. your spreader poles in place and nice and secure. All that's left to do now is to go around and guy and peg out the remainder of your tent, and you are done. And I would have to say, the time you've had a couple of goes at setting up this tent, it shouldn't take you longer than say 5 to 7 minutes. Tops. Now, when it comes to the first impressions of this tent, I really like the look of this tent. Now, when it comes to the price of this tent, you can pick this tent up direct from Temu for £59. However, here in the UK, you can purchase this tent direct from Amazon for between sort of £60 and £80. Now, it comes in a choice of colours. I've gone for it in this khaki colour, but you can also get it in an army green. You also get it in a third choice, which comes in an army green, but it comes with these khaki gold, copper coloured tent poles. Now, this tent, as mentioned earlier, the inner is already attached to the outer fly. So before you actually peg it out, you can actually lift this tent up and move it around, which is great. The other thing which I really like when the inner tent is already attached to the outer fly, if it is going to be raining or even a little bit of snow, at least you know the inside of your tent isn't going to get wet. Other points that I like on this tent is it has 2 outer doors, 2 vestibules and 2 inner doors. So whatever I show you this side is exactly the same on the other side. It also has a couple of air vents, one each side, to let in a nice bit of airflow, which in turn will help reduce any condensation. Now, when it comes to the outer fabric of this tent, it's made from a 210T ripstop polyester. It also has a hydrostatic head rating of 3,000 millimeters. Now, all the seams on this tent are double stitched and they are tape sealed, so it is completely waterproof. Now, when it comes to wind resistance, the company doesn't actually state how well this tent will perform in winds. Looking at this tent from my personal experience, looking at the build quality, I would say this tent could withstand up to 25 to 30 mile per hour winds. Now, I have spoken to a good friend of mine who's owned this tent for about 2 years now, and he totally agreed that this tent is more than capable in moderate winds. Now, I did also mention that you do get 4 guy lines which already come attached to each corner of your tent. They're not bad guidelines. They are bright orange and I think they are reflective. So if you don't want these reflective bright orange guidelines, it's an easy fix. You could simply just change them out. But as guidelines go, these are absolutely fine and they more than do the job. Now, when it comes to the outer doors on this tent, the zips which run right down the center of the outer doors is covered with the storm flap. The storm flap does have some Velcro on, so it keeps it in place should the wind pick up. Now, when it comes to the zips on this tent, the external zips and the internal zips, from what I can see, they're not branded zips, but in saying that, they seem to perform absolutely fine. I haven't had any stick in or snag in or them catching on any material. So yeah, not branded zips, but they perform absolutely fine. Now, with these outer door panels, you can simply just roll and clip one back, or you can roll and clip both of them back. Now, what I really like with these door panels, instead of rolling them back and then toggling them back, which you usually do, you actually have a bit of tent fabric which is underneath here and it hangs right down, but it also has a clip-on like the clips that you use to connect your tent to your tent poles, and you just pull it and simply connect it straight to your tent pole, so it makes it nice and easy. Now, when it comes to the vestibules on this tent, they're not very big, but as I always say, some vestibule is better than no vestibule. But apart from using these vestibules for a bit of storage, they're not really big enough to cook in. But on the plus side, if you are sharing this tent with someone, you've both got a bit of storage each side. So at least that's going to free up a little bit of space on the inside of the tent. Now, when we take a look at the internal tent, you've got this no-sear mesh, which runs all the way round the inner tent. So that indicates it's a 3-season tent. Also, On the outer fly, as you can see, it doesn't fully go to the ground. So once again, indicating it's a 3-season tent. But this mesh is great because it's going to give you maximum airflow, which in turn will help reduce any condensation, but it'll also help keep any insects out. Now, when it comes to the bathtub floor on this tent, it's made from a 150 denier Oxford cloth, and it has a hydrostatic head rating of 3,000 millimeters, and exactly the same as the outer fly. All the seams are double stitched and tape sealed, so it is completely waterproof. Now, doing some research on the waterproofing on this tent, looking at reviews online, watching YouTube reviews, and speaking to my mate who's owned this tent for a couple of years, no one seems to have had any issues with the waterproofing on this tent. Now, with the internal tent, before you get in, it does actually have a D-shaped door, which can simply be unzipped, rolled, and toggled back. When it comes to the internal size of this tent, it is classed as a 2-person tent. The length comes in at 220 centimeters. The width comes in at 140 centimeters, and the internal height comes in at 120 centimeters. So as far as a 2-person tent goes, it's actually classed as a decent sized tent. However, personally, I would prefer to use this tent just on my own with plenty of room. Now, inside this tent, you do get a little lamp hook on the ceiling, and then you get a storage pocket, one in each corner of the tent. So I suppose if you're sharing with someone and you were going head to toe, you could simply just have your own little storage pocket. Now, with this tent as well, what I like is that, as I say, you have the 2 outer doors, 2 vestibules, and 2 inner doors. So if you are going to be sharing with someone, at least you're not climbing over each other to get in and out. Or if you're not sharing with anyone, you can open up both sides fully and you can have a great view either side of your tent. So my final thoughts on this tent. Well, I have to say, I really like this tent. A budget tent with some great features. It's quick and easy to set up. It is more than capable in the wind and the rain. I think this tent is going to be best suited to the warmer times of the year, i.e. spring, summer and autumn. However, in saying that, I think you could push this tent to the early part of winter as well. I think, as I said earlier, this little tent for me is a little hidden gem, because I think you get in a lot of tent for not a lot of money. But listen, you tell me what you think about this NightCat 2-person 3-season tent. As I say, I really like it. Everyone online seems to love it. My friend, it's the only tent for him, he said. So, as I say, you tell me if you like this tent, and is it a tent you would consider. But in saying all that, if you've enjoyed this video, please hit the like button. If you haven't already, please subscribe to the channel. And lastly, don't forget to turn on the notification bell so you can be notified every time I upload a new video. But until next time, thank you so much for watching, and I'll see you in the next video.